Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hello, welcome to TFYLP. We are live tonight. What are we, March 29th? Episode 424. I'm Lucas, and I am joined tonight by Jim.
Hello.
Robert.
Howdy.
And Rick.
Can you guys see me? Can you guys, is this okay? Can you guys see me all right?
Thanks,
You're gonna make
Rick.
people motion
I
sick.
appreciate it. We've been we were a little late because we were trying to figure out Rick's setup here. Somehow the headphones were not working well, so he decided to just use his phone again. So we'll see if this will work out. Hopefully.
Yeah, the strange error code kept coming up as ID.10T. I'm still trying to figure out what that's about.
Says I have user connectivity issues. You think that's why I'm getting sick all the time?
Could be.
Probably.
That is
What
pretty
is
sick.
that there, Rick?
Oh, this is the star stream that Paul doesn't have.
That's really
That's what it is.
Oh, wow.
That's the only reason you keep
It's
it.
just a star stream that Paul doesn't have. That's all it is.
Shots fired right there.
Nobody considers your things like that valid because it's all dirty pool.
Oh,
Under the belt.
Come on. A lot of the stuff I've gotten through other things means.
No, but you're the guy that worked at Hasbro once. It gives you connections that aren't fair.
Hey, man. Then you guys.
I mean, you
go
do
work
you.
at Hasbro
Go
and
for it. Oh, I wouldn't want to work there.
Nobody wants to work there. I don't want to work there ever again. Trust me, you don't want to work there.
So yeah, tonight's topic is we're talking about Transformers that we never thought we would own. So there's a lot with that, but I think in my mind it was really an excuse for Rick to show stuff off, really, because he's jonesing that we haven't had an Oof My Wallet, although he didn't join us on our Unicron reveal. Because have you gotten yours yet, Rick?
I get mine on Wednesday.
I mean, to be fair, like only 2 people on the cast have gotten theirs yet when y'all had that show, and
Yeah,
Phil didn't even open his, so he couldn't talk about it.
Right.
I think
that was a bad show. And
I
you
mean,
should feel bad.
To be fair, like I wanted to postpone the show. It was all Paul. It wasn't me at all. I swear.
timing worked out for Paul. I understand, but
I thought
it doesn't
you were
mean
the
we might
boss
not.
here. Who's the boss? You or Paul?
Whoever
Paul's
runs the
calling
show,
shots.
whoever's hosting the show runs that show. That's the.
Yeah. It worked. The timing worked out for both of us. So I apologize, Rick. So, but hopefully we can see your Unicron on an episode of Cut the Tape.
We're gonna see Unicron this Friday or Saturday on Cut the Tape. I plan on opening it the day it comes and filming it.
Now, are you gonna do a full transformation? Like, can we, have you swearing
Be a
and
2-hour
whatnot
video.
as you're trying to?
No, I not only want to do the full transformation, I've been reading up on how to disassemble it so you can have it in robot and planet mode.
But you won't have the wings in planet mode or in one of the modes. So you gotta make that choice. Which one gets it? You give one wing and the other half a ring, and that's what you do.
The
Yeah,
3D
there you
panel
go.
rings.
That might work.
It won't work at all.
I can see it now in my mind's eye.
So when Rick posed this topic, obviously there's the one like kind of, half bragging rights. Although it doesn't even have to be anything, necessarily pricey that you just never thought you would get and you ended up with.
Yeah.
But also, to me, there's another part of it that's interesting as well, and I'm sure we'll kind of talk about examples of both, is stuff I never thought I'd own because I didn't think they'd ever make it. So there's some stuff that we've gotten through the years that's just like, I didn't think we'd get a figure of this, and here I am with this figure that is super cool. And sometimes there's
a whole other show, though.
I think the Unicron qualifies for that, right?
It absolutely does, in my opinion. I got mine in Sunday. I did not think I'd ever have a Unicron, bigger than a baby, that would exist.
Now you have a toddler.
Now I have a toddler.
Yeah. Does he qualify you for the carpool lane? That's the question.
I've seen people do that before. They took some big figure, put it in robot mode, and they strapped it in just because it looks kind of cute sitting there with a seatbelt.
Right, exactly. So, I don't know about you guys, but, when I was first starting off collecting Transformers, I never would have thought I would have gotten to this point. And I don't necessarily consider myself at the point that other people are at, that are on the podcast or just other people in the community and all that. But I would have not thought that, that my collecting would be, where it's at. So I don't know about you guys. Like, are you guys kind of similar, or were you always like Peter, where you're like, day one, I'm gonna own it all from like the age of 4. You're like, I have this collecting goal.
I'll go last.
All right. I'll go second then. I was definitely like you, Lucas. It was into college for me, so like 2004 when I started, I had a job making like $12 an hour, but I was single and out of college and the cost of living here is low. I was rich. And I was like, I got into Ninja Turtles first. That nostalgia started kicking me, and Ninja Turtles are a lot cheaper to collect if you happen to collect film than Transformers. They're just infinitely cheaper at any decade. They're infinitely cheaper. And I was like, oh man, Transformers are cool. I was like, but man, those are expensive. I'm never going to get into that. I can't do it. And then the TFC book reissues, if you remember those, are Transformers. They were called the TFC Transformers Club, but it wasn't no relation to the club here in the States. So there wasn't a club even. That's just what they were named. Like the Megatron reissue came out, and I was just like, oh, I got to check that out. And so I did, and it's just been downhill since. So, I never thought I'd have, all of this. And at this point, hell, I've probably sold half of what I've owned at this point, as stuff comes and goes. And as I've just refocused over, and I enjoy stuff and I get rid of them. We talked a lot about that before. Yeah. If you said, oh, one day you're going to have a basement and you're going to have it lined with billies with toys all over it, most of it Transformers, 90% of it, I would have been like, you're an idiot. I'm not that dumb. I'm not going to do that. You're stupid. Go away. Here I am. So joke's on me.
Jim?
Yes. Well, like you, I mainly started out of high school. I first started working almost a quarter century ago. I was making like $5.15 an hour back then, so I didn't have quite that same budget that you did, Robert. But my first one was Transmetal's Optimus Minor. And then here comes Beast Machines and Rid.
How did you stay collecting when that's your first figure and that's the line that was out at the time? It's like the worst stuff.
Again, I wasn't necessarily from the richest family, and a lot of what I had at that time was what I had got as a kid from birthdays, Christmases, and this and that. Top spin here, Bone Crusher there, whatever. Of course, busted, worn, missing parts, loose, rusted, wherever. And that's about the time where I first started discovering eBay, and hey, these things are worth money. So I started going down that rabbit hole, and I'm like, well, the one at the store doesn't look too bad. So I grabbed one, checked it out, and it ended up being the Optimus Minor. Then I saw these machines started trickling out. Saw the Viacon drones, Jetstorm, ones like that. And then here comes RID. Next thing I know, I own every figure except for Megatron and Fort Max, which of course wasn't reissued in the States. And then it got worse from there. I eventually got a OTFCC membership thing, whatever it's called. Pre-order. What's the thing called? The package had the sucker and stuff in it. What was that? Was that?
I don't remember. It was the Primus package
that people hang on to. It's all weird looking now. Well, anyway, that was my first official fan club related thing, and then all these years later, here I am. I've got Studio Series on the shelf behind me. QM issues on the Entertainment Center. But as far as ones I never thought I would get would be some of the ones that I had as a kid, but in pristine condition, or reacquired ones I'd lost. One of my greatest examples here, right there. Not the issue. This is Slugfest and Overkill.
Nice.
Price tag.
Nice.
I know, right? $6.99.
Sure, that's what you paid, right?
No. Factoring and shipping about $110. But it was worth it. The hardback is immaculate. It has one little crease up here. I unfortunately, when getting it out of the box, the bubble finished tearing off, so I had to re-glue it. But overall, not bad. I've since reacquired, Horrid Bull, which is one of them I lost in a house fire.
Oh, was he not broke?
1 inch.
Okay.
The other one's intact, and I figured that's about the best I'm going to be able to get on my budget. I'm fine with that. It's attached.
Yep.
I just got the gray rifle about 3 weeks ago, so it is now complete.
Mine is I think mine is broken, and it was jury rigged with some other piece of metal back through it or something like that. I've had it for so long that I don't remember anymore.
Yeah.
It's right over there on my shelf. I need to pop it up, and I've thought beforehand. I'm like, I'm going to get a nice one that's unbroken, and then I hit eBay, and I'm like, nah, I'm not. I'm good. It's fine.
If it wasn't under so much pressure, it would have been fine.
It's just badly designed.
The way they did it, it puts too much pressure on the pin.
Yep.
It snaps the plastic. But that would have been the same house fire that I lost Squawk Box in as well.
Oh, I love those. Those are so dorky, but I love them.
Oh no, it's great. All right, Rick. So what about you?
So I don't think I've ever told this story. How I got into collecting Transformers. When I was a kid, I had Transformers. They came out in '84. My first Transformer was Gears. I remember my mom taking me to Kmart, and we bought Gears. I still have them too. So my childhood comes and goes, and the year was 1994. Power of the Force had just come out. And I thought, oh, cool. Star Wars is coming out. It hadn't even come out yet. Cool, Star Wars is coming out again. Boy, I really love Star Wars. There was a store that was selling old Star Wars toys. I'm going to go check it out. So I go to the store. I spend $20. I get 2 figures I never had before. I think one of them was, I think it was the Imperial Guard and the Snowtrooper. And I see as I'm leaving, oh, he's got a bunch of Transformers, and I see Scourge and Wheeljack. I never had those guys as a kid, and wow, okay, like cool Transformers. I leave, and the second I leave, it clicks. And I thought about it all week. Man, I never had those Transformers. Man, I really like those Transformers. I really wish I'd always had them. Next weekend, I went back. Bought Wheeljack. Bought Scourge. Next weekend, bought Motormaster. I went back every weekend for a year and spent money at this guy's shop. And another year after that, so 2 years after I started collecting, he gave me a job. So Star Wars is the reason I collect Transformers now. But it started because I kept looking at the catalogs, at the cross sells when I was a kid, going, oh, I wish I had that, and wish I had that, and I wish I had that. And I lived in South America, so it wasn't necessarily easy to get Transformers. And I just kept getting this one and this one and this one and that one. And there was one Transformer I always wanted as a kid. One guy I always wanted. And I remember I was in the back of my mom's station wagon driving home from my uncle's house. And I looked up and I made a wish on a star. And I wished that I could have Shockwave. And now I have Shockwave.
I really thought it was going to be Bullet Bike. The best Transformer there is.
I already have the best Transformer there is, and his name's Gears.
Oh.
so of course, once you got your Shockwave, you stopped with that, right? Like, because that was like the end of your collection, like the highlight, right?
I don't know what it was. I don't know. I can't explain why I kept getting it. And Shockwave, I remember getting them fairly early. I don't know why I kept getting them. And then I have no idea what was my first licensed item that I got. And I have no idea when or where or how much I got it for. But the licensed goods, man, the lunch boxes, the masks, the pencil sets, man, I go deep. I go really deep in that stuff. And I can't remember what made me get into it. And
the flamethrower?
Not yet.
I mean, was it something where you're like, oh, it seems like it's really hard to come by, some of that stuff from the 80s? Was that kind of like what your thinking was? Or like, were you just...
I think it was a combination of me not having a lot of friends when I was in high school. I was a loner. I was very shy. I could not talk to girls at all. I was super shy. I didn't have a best friend I could hang out with either. I had acquaintances. I was always working. I had my job at the supermarket, and I would work every day after school, and then I'd work at least one day on the weekends. And I was in high school. I had no bills, so I had disposable income. And every paycheck just went towards, oh, I never had that guy. I never had that. Oh, Hot Rod. I never had him. And it kept going until the point where I started working to buy Transformers. So by the time I got out of high school, I was working at the supermarket Monday through Friday. Saturday morning, I would deliver flowers for my girlfriend's mom's flower shop. Saturday night, I would work at the supermarket. Sunday morning at 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., I would work at the supermarket. And then from 10 a.m. to 6, I would work at the toy store. And being at the toy store, any Transformer that came in, automatically, I had first dibs on.
Did he even pay you a paycheck?
Usually, I ended up owing him money. The guy who runs the store, and the store still exists. It's in a different location, but it still exists. It's still run by Scott. I love the man like he's my father. And I named my defunct Kickstarter, Play With This Too, after his store called Play With This in New Jersey.
So if you're ever up that way.
Him.
Awesome.
And I got to college, same thing. I was working as a security guard in a museum, in an art gallery. I was an art history minor, so I loved art. I was working at the museum so I can be around all the paintings. I was working at the supermarket on the weekend, Friday night. I would usually work a double on Saturday, like 4 to 4 or 6 to 6. 5 a.m. at the grocery store. Then I'd work Sunday nights at the toy store till 6 p.m. and then I drove an hour back to college.
Just on
I
that
had
hustle?
no bills other than my books and occasionally eating a fat cat at the grease trucks. So when I was in college, eBay showed up. eBay showed up when I was in high school, but it really didn't hit for me until I was in college. And I was thinking, oh my God, what is this toy, Dino King? Someone's got all 6 of them together and they're asking $400. Let me put a bid on it. Boom, Dino King, $400. That was the days of eBay when like stuff, Overlord sealed, $300. Done.
Those were the days.
Yeah, we were all innocent. We were
Hey,
all.
hey Rick, this shop you were talking about, is that Merchantville?
Yeah.
Okay. I was looking it up.
Yeah. Yep. It's an awesome store. He carries a million different things. The guy's great. His name's Scott. I love him to death. He's like my dad, and nothing I wouldn't do for him. And he's the reason why I have all my toys. He's also the reason how I ended up getting into books.
Oh.
So there was another guy there that was friends with him named John Marshall. And John Marshall was writing a book on 80s toys. And he's like, hey, Rick, I hear you've got a lot of Transformers. Can I borrow them for the book? All right, sure. Here's a bunch. Book came out. Massive failure. But the publisher contacted me saying, hey, we got a lot of good feedback on the Transformers chapter. Do you want to write a book? Yeah, sure. They never once asked me, hey, are you fluent in English? Are you fully capable of doing this? Do you know how to write a book? They should have asked me those questions. They should have asked, can you read and write English good? And me
Well,
time, no.
Can you read
good
and write
talk,
English well?
because me Spanish speak. So, okay. See, yeah, I can write a book for you. That's no problem.
That's crazy.
That's why when I had a chance to redo that book 2 years ago, I basically did the Snyder cut.
And you need more slow motion. You need to find a way to make the pages turn in slow motion.
Right. There's actually a black and white version coming out too.
There you go.
Now is it black and white version of the existing, or is it just nothing but all the black and white chase figures that have been released?
Yeah. It's both.
Oh, okay.
It's all of that. It's all of that.
Man,
So-
I'll tell you, I pulled this place up on Google Maps, and this dude's shelves are packed.
Yeah. He's got one day he's gonna sell that store, and I want to
To
be
you,
the guy
right?
who buys it.
Be in good
I
hands.
probably
if you
won't sell anything after I buy it, but
Right.
did. It'll
Right.
it'll be assimilated into the collective of the
Right.
basement there.
right, through osmosis. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Rick, the problem
I'm
with
like the
having a
Borg.
store is do you actually have to sell items? Like, it's not just a way to funnel things into your collection.
That's what my wife keeps telling me. She's like, Rick, you understand the point of owning a business is not for you to enrich your toy collection. You have to make money.
Says who?
Right?
What
I mean,
is
as
this
long
money?
as the investors are okay with it, right?
Not what the internet says.
So I guess where I went wrong at a young age when I was in college, instead of like, throwing money at, like dumb stuff, right? That I should have been collecting toys at that point, right?
Obviously.
You know what? There was another factor too. Now that I think about it, I was so shy. I was such a coward in high school. I never smoked pot. I was deathly afraid of it. I never smoked pot, never drank alcohol. So I had I wasn't wasting any money on that recreational stuff.
You know? I mean, have you seen the documentary Reefer Madness? So it's a good thing you didn't touch the devil's lettuce. It makes you insane. So
yeah,
100% insane immediately.
Yes, I heard you die from it. You have
do die.
I highly recommend the Rift Tracks version of that.
Yeah. I had a doctor once tell me, Rick, you know what's wrong with you? You don't smoke enough pot. And then I leaned over and I said, I've never smoked pot. And the doctor says, I can write you a prescription for that. I'm going to be 42 in 2 weeks, and I've still never smoked pot. But I drink plenty of alcohol.
You're covered.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I got all the alcohol.
So I know for me, one of the things, like, I always, when I got back into collecting, I collected, kind of what was on the shelf, like with retail and all that. I was aware of some of the Masterpiece and everything. And I started getting into that and third party and everything. But I never really thought I was going to get into vintage items, But, like, one of the reasons I started getting into it is that there was this guy that did an estate sale. So there was a Transformers collector who had passed away, and this guy was like helping out with like selling the collection. This was like a few years ago, and this guy had like everything. Like, I mean, not everything. I'm sure Rick, probably didn't have as much stuff as you did, but he had a lot of stuff. And so it was one of those things where, like, when they put the listings up, he did multiple listings of, like, he did one shot over a weekend with like a bunch of listings, and then like a week later and a week later and a week later. So it was kind of like, I think it was like 4 total like auction, or, it was a bunch of auctions, but 4 total weekends or something like that. And that's where I ended up getting a lot of my vintage collection, was because, especially like that first auction, like people weren't really aware of it. And so like stuff was just going ridiculously cheap compared to like what it should on eBay. And so I'm just like sitting there spending like an idiot, sitting there buying like, like I got a bunch of stuff like a G1 Omega, and then I started looking at like some of the G2 stuff and whatnot, some of the European stuff that he had. And that's kind of where I started collecting in the G2 stuff. I started collecting that stuff just because I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I don't even see some of this stuff on eBay. And so I started kind of bidding and collecting that. And then once I started, that's where I'm sure you guys are kind of the same way with eBay, where you start putting alerts up of like, oh, if this comes across eBay or that comes across eBay or whatever. Or just wherever, like if you're at a convention or something like that and they have some cool stuff. But I feel like that's kind of like what got me into the door, was those auctions, and kind of like started my vintage collection. And I never really thought I was going to get into the outside of like some of the reissues they've done, and so, a few of the ones that I had as a kid, like that I wanted to rebuy. But
I mean, like, if we go back far enough to, stuff as a kid you never thought you'd have, like a complete Devastator, or even just the 6 bots, much less complete with all these little gajillion little weapons and stuff. Like that was.
That's funny you should mention that one. As a kid, entering adolescence, right at the height of Generation 2, my brother and I was able to complete a G2 Devastator. I ended up with the upper half, and he ended up with the lower half. Each trip to Kmart, we got one constructed on each. started out with a torso, and rummaging through an old toy box, we discovered, hey, we have a Generation 1 version of this one guy. Turns out it was Bone Crusher. So starting out, I had two. He only had one. So, it was fun, though.
Yeah. And like, I don't have a lot of memories as a kid of the brand. I mean, I do have some, and obviously the nostalgia roots were there that got me back into it. And plus I like puzzles, and to me Transformers has always been kind of a puzzle play pattern. That's what I like about them in a lot of ways. But I'm sure as a kid, if I had better memory, I could name about a billion things that I never had that I always wanted, and now I have them all, which is fun for G1 at least.
So my question is that, Transformers, they always had the checklist, and like a lot of toys did this too, right? Toy lines. Like, who was the first genius that came up with that checklist? Like, do you know, Rick?
I would say, well, as far as Transformers, I mean, they're borrowing from another toy line.
Yeah.
But I think Star Wars was the first one to put all the guys from the entire line on the back of the package. Like,
collect them all.
Because that's what I feel like is that checking that box. Like, I don't know. I feel like, in your head, you almost think of that, like when you're getting like a new masterpiece and you're like, all right, I checked it off. Like, I've got all the season 1 guys, or I have all the, whatever it may be. Or like even the toy catalogs, this like the Sears catalog or something like that, where, it had all of the figures together and you kind of wanted to collect everyone in that image that was on the catalog.
He's dead to us.
If we lost Lucas, is the podcast even going? Oh, he's back now. You froze for a second there. We lost. You're back now.
Oh, you sound drunk. Oh God!
That's just.
They looked at me weird.
I don't know.
No, you're fine now. Like, even, I kind of feel like that's something Japan's had a leg up on, because even if you go back to like some of the earlier, pre-Transformer robot lines and stuff, they're numbered. So I don't know if those things had checklists in them, but it's release 01, 02, 03. So even if you didn't have a checklist, there's a number you're missing, and that definitely ticks some of our OCD tendencies that, most of us in this hobby have some degree of that we control with various success. Where it's like, oh, it's got a number on it, I got to buy it, Yeah.
Or if the numbering gets weird, kind of like what Studio Series is doing with that Bumblebee subline.
What are they doing?
Oh, sorry.
Was it Buzzworthy Bumblebee? They've got like 4 deluxes. They got Shatter, they got Camaro B, 70s B, and whatever the 4th one was. It's like one comes with Sam, one comes with Charlie. Well, anyway, but it's Studio Series, same figure, unaltered, but the box has yellow details on it, and the number is like instead of 40, it's 40 BB.
Oh.
Or 16 BB.
It's kind of like how the Masterpiece line will do the plus version, or the, like with the first round of Seekers, it was the same number, but they put like SW after for Skywarp or something like that. Yeah. Then it makes it even weirder.
Yeah.
When they do that.
The funkiest number system had to be the Thrilling 31, right?
What were those 30? What? They claimed there were 30, but it was all over the map.
During that time. That was the time of what I call the Great Shift, where some marketing people had, every 2 years, Hasbro shifts. So you spent the last 2 years working on this brand? No. Now you work on G.I. Joe? No. Now you work on Play-Doh. Go. You work on Transformers? No. Now you do Marvel. It was the time of the Great Shift, and what are we doing? Thrilling 30? What? I'm not 30. No, I don't care. I don't want that. I don't care. That's what happened with that. It was an unorganized plan with little follow through, and when you try to raise something to someone well, that really doesn't fit in the plan of what we're doing. We want a cohesive brand. I'm looking around and I see, well, there's a masterpiece figure. There's a deluxe figure. There's a movie figure. What? None of this makes sense. Why are they? None of this makes sense. No, we're not doing this. So that's what happened with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good luck with your checklist.
Hasbro worked against itself.
That was pretty all over the place. I mean, you had Cybertron Starscream. You had what was it? The Year of the Horse or Snake.
Wasn't
Optimus.
the Predaking reissue part of it too?
Predaking? Yeah, I think it was. Windblade.
And I think they even skipped a few numbers.
Did they?
Yeah.
I know people had tried to deduce it.
There was like SECC, Metroplex, I think was one of them. Or
Yes,
two of them.
that was one of them.
I think
both of the Metroplexes were, like the regular one. The Metroplex was one, and I think SCCC was one.
Okay.
Because
Zaldron
have two. You gotta have two.
Zaldron asks,
neither of Metro Titans.
Weren't there like 3 number 15s? And I would say probably.
That sounds right. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That sounds right.
Yeah.
So, did we want to get into some specifics? Like, I know Jim went through some earlier for him, like just kind of
some
Jim,
specific I don't know things. If you had any other ones that you wanted to highlight.
I was just about done. I mentioned. Did I mention Slam Dance?
He was the last one you held up.
Okay, Slam Dance. I had after the house fire, but he didn't survive just my general childhood. Playing rough and all that, losing parts. And then one I didn't figure I would own again. I actually pieced together. I started piecing this together 1 year ago tonight. It was G1 Megatron.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
It's combined from two part spots, 2 bodies, and then various accessories.
It's funny. That ended for you today, and I was like, that's where my collecting began, was that reissue.
Yeah, no,
that's funny. Yep.
The older I get, the more expensive Transformers become. And, I've got these old war stories, and I'm sure Headmaster Don has them too. I spent $100 for a great shot. Oh, I only paid $200 for my Metro Titan. But those days have come and gone. So as I get older, I realize, it's natural that there are certain Transformers I don't have that have gone up drastically in price. And you say, well, I'll probably never get that one. I have one very good example that I never thought I would get because I thought, well, when am I ever going to drop the cash on something that big? Guard City.
Oh, nice.
Guard City. So Guard City was for anyone who doesn't know, at the tail end of Transformers, Takara put out Battle Gaia and Guard City. Battle Gaia was a redeco of G1 Bruticus. Guard City is a redeco of G1 Defensor. And here it is. And I never thought I would get it. But I entered a raffle. One of those raffles you see on Facebook where it's like, hey, $10 a spot, winner gets their pick of 3 gifts or whatever. I entered a spot. I think it was $25 for the spot. And I got Battle Gaia.
Just for people that think, oh my goodness, like, remember the numbers aren't in your favor here.
No.
You play enough of them, you will get lucky, but I'm sure Rick has spent a lot of money throughout the years. You could think of it, he put a payment plan through RNG, random number generators that got him this eventually.
So I've been one of the lucky guys. I've won a bunch of auctions. I've lost more auctions than I've won, though.
Yeah.
This was one of the auctions where I came up big.
See, what Rick doesn't realize is those are actually the Big Lots knockoffs in there.
Yeah.
Just in the vintage package. That's
this actually looks like it was inkjet. Yeah. There's a lot of tape on this. I don't know if that's original or not, but it looks like Scotch tape.
Oh, it's double taped. Oh man.
Yeah, it's holding the whole thing together.
Better ask for your $25 back.
Transformers is written in marker too, so I'm pretty sure it's legit.
Yeah, Battle Gaia and Guard City are both on ones that I think they're on my never gonna get list. Like, if I wanted to, I could, not buy other things, and I could save up, and I could make my way towards them. But, even back when I first kind of was getting that deep into my collecting, when I got a lot of my other Japanese stuff, I was like, man, and remember, this was then. I was like, oh, that's like $1,100 for a Guard City. I'm like, I'm not going to spend that for a defense or repaint. I was like, I'm just not going to, especially not that one. It's like, I'm not going to do it. And now it's a lot more than that, so it's like, it's even less likely these days.
Yeah. So now, you're,
But that's where I feel like it's like never say never, that you just somehow happen upon, like a Facebook listing, or, back when they actually had conventions that, they, someone at their booth or whatever would have something that you're like, oh, I never thought I would get this. Oh, they have it. It's right there in front of me. All I have to do is put down a mortgage payment on it, and it's good to go.
You are right. Never say never, but the odds are pretty low. People that go to conventions, like, they know what they have. And everybody and their mother knows. You go search on eBay and you figure out what some sort of value is, or you ask around, they know who to ask, and so it's really hard to get something to fall through the cracks. But never say never. At some point, somebody like, I'm tired of. I've carried this to 5 conventions. I'm going to put and I didn't pay. Maybe they got it at a decent price. They'll finally mark it down enough to get somebody to buy it. But
that was the thing for me. When I went out to the TFCon in LA, that I got a few pieces, and I know that I showed off to you guys, like this orange Devastator was one of the pieces that I got, and it was really a guy in the community that was getting out of his G2 collection, and so he got a booth and was just selling a bunch of the stuff like at reasonable prices. So I was like, all right, like, if I buy a bunch of stuff, like, how much of a discount can you give me? And so, like, this is one of the guys that I always would, like, go to there, and like, Brett would always have one, and I'd be like, oh, well, how much? And it'd always be too much. Like, I didn't want to spend what he was offering it for, but I was able to make a deal, a package deal for like the orange Devastator. And then I also got these little the spark
Firecons, spark bots.
Yeah. From these were from the same deal, and like these are the European ones as well. So it's like the funky colors and all that. And again, it's like one of those things where it's like, I never thought I was going to own it because I didn't think that I was going to be able to get the right price. Like, it's not hard to get these, but it's hard to get them at, like, I'm sure Rick,
at your interest level,
1,000 stores. Exactly. At the price that I want to pay.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you remember the episode of Simpsons with the clown college. And when Homer first sees the clown college billboard or whatever, he's like, that's stupid. Why would anybody go to clown college? I'm not going to clown college. That's how I felt the very first time. And I've shown this on the show. The very first time I saw Grandis. I was like, that's stupid. What idiot would ever buy Grandis? And then I bought Grandis. It's one that I never thought I would own, just because, he's expensive. He's not cheap. He's always been expensive, and he only gets more expensive. Like, mine was, very white, complete, in the box and foam and everything, and really, pristine condition. And one sold on eBay that had no parts and was a little yellowed like a month ago for what I paid for that. And I only bought that, what was that, TFCon 2016? Something like that.
It was later than that. Was
it 18?
I think it was 18.
Okay.
I think it was 18.
Yeah, so it's just stuff keeps going up. But Matt at Transformer Land, he hadn't even opened his booth yet. And I was like, hey, do you have a Grandis? I'm just curious. I'd been saving up my pennies. It had gotten down to where like the only other stuff I don't have in G1 are repaints. That was the last like unique mold from G1 that I did not have anything of. So like I haven't picked up a Guard City or a Battle Guy. I'm unlikely to. I don't have Great Shot, but I might get him at some point. As far as expensive G1 goes, he's not as high up as other things. So he's in the realm of maybe one day, maybe a Ranger, just because he's pretty different colors. But yeah, so he was my clown college.
Dental plan.
Dental plan. Another kind of one of those is very early BotCon. Like I think it was my first BotCon, 2006. Somebody had this in the room, and this is another one. I think everything here I've talked about before at some point on the show. Somebody had this sealed, and in the box, the one of the gun robos here, and it had box, and they wanted $100 for it, and it was in a room to room. I think it was Brett, to be honest. I think it was in his room, and I just at that time in my life, like I couldn't spend $100. I was like, oh man, I really want that. That looks so cool. And he sold it in like 10 minutes for $100. I had the chance to buy it, but I missed it. And I was just, and since then, every time I'd look for it, it would just cost more and more and more. And it was one of those, I did not think I was ever going to be able to get that figure again. And finally I did on eBay. You talked about having saved searches. I had saved searches for the few different other gun robots that are out there. And finally I was able to grab one. It took a while. I thought I'd missed my chance, to get it, kind of as we said, like at a price I wanted to pay for it. Because there's always that G1, or not G1, but there's always somebody on eBay that has some vintage something that's in box for like, literally 3-4 times what people actually sell it for. So those auctions aside. But it's nice to get it.
And that's the thing is I do feel like the vintage stuff is really there's a lot more of a thrill of the chase kind of thing going on with that versus like the new figures, like because the new figures like Masterpiece or whatever, it's really just like we all get it at the same time, and it's like
get your pre-order in.
Yeah, exactly. We all have our whatever figure it may be, like the new figure of the month, and so some of the stuff is fun because it's like, oh, my Walmart restocked before your Walmart, and so I just happen to get whatever figure first. But like a lot of that vintage stuff, I mean, I always feel like that there's a story to tell with like all of it, of like how you tracked it down as like this year that I had that, and I've been looking for it for this long. And again, like Rick, I'm sure you have 1,000 of those stories.
Yeah. Would you hear one?
The truth is, a lot of that is boring. Eventually it showed up on eBay and I bought it. But there are a lot of with the just flat out hard to find like Japanese stuff. And even some of the like European exclusive stuff, I actually still remember where I got a lot of that. Like a lot of stuff I don't. I have no idea when I got it. I either got it on eBay or I got it at a show, and I just it was there and I bought it. I had it in my budget,
But I feel like even some of that stuff, and Rob, I don't know, you might be a little bit different. Like I know
I'm definitely
me,
different.
Where a lot of times it's like you find a figure and then you're like, should I get this? Is this a good price? And then you're like, messaging some other people and you're like, what do you guys think? Like, you're like, oh, this prototype came out. Like, what do you think the value is? Like, just different things like that where I don't know. Like, I feel like, and I've been on the other side as a seller as well, where I've had a figure, I'm kind of done with it. But it's rare at this point because like I bought it 5 years ago and it like was plentiful then, but now it's hard to find. And so sometimes you can make someone's day because or their week or whatever, because oh hey, I've got this figure and I'll sell it to them for a reasonable price.
Yeah, I mean, even Grandis there, Peter was with me when Matt dug it out, and Peter like looked at me, he's like, do this. Make this happen. And he told me after the fact, he's like, if you didn't buy it, I was going to buy it. He's like, not kidding, no joke. He's like, it had a buyer at that point. I didn't know that, but he's like, you need to do this, do it. And part of it, I think he wanted me to buy it so that he wouldn't spend it on it because he was going to buy it. So I did have somebody to say like, this is a price that you should buy this at.
The secret for any of that stuff is if you want someone to help push you over the edge on buying something, is to talk to Peter,
Or
talk
Nick.
to Destron.
Well, maybe not. Nick is mad sometimes and says no, it's crap. Don't buy
talk
any
to
of
Peter
it.
because Peter will always say yes, buy it.
He doesn't even know what it is. He didn't even have to know. You just say toy ? And he says yes, buy it.
So Rick, what is your story that you have that?
Oh man, I just lost it.
Here, I'll tell another one while you think on that.
Give me a moment.
Well, we're a podcast. I'm not going to sit here with dead air. You can collect yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell it. I need a moment.
Yeah, this is one that I didn't think they would ever make. So this kind of goes in that. Like, this isn't hard to find. This isn't expensive. It's not pricey. But the fact that they made a dedicated Straxus figure in Generations, like that still to this day kind of blows my mind that these days I don't think it would be as impressive. I think it would still be impressive. Like, when they gave us, honestly, the Super Megatron they gave us recently. Like the fact that they, Takara made the effort to try to make that remold heavy enough to make it like that's one I could put on here. And this is one, Super Megatron there. This is kind of in that line, like it's a deep cut that fans know, that no one seeing this on the shelf would know. Generation Selects is direct to, pretty much direct to consumer, direct to the collectors. This was on a Walmart shelf. So the fact that they made a dedicated Straxus figure just kind of still blows my mind. Hasbro has done deep cuts for us throughout the years. These days, I think it's more of a given because they've realized where their market is, I guess. But I don't know. It's just so cool that we got a Straxus figure. It's old. It's easy. It's cheap. But, it's awesome.
All right. So I got 1,000,001 stories. I've told this story before. The story. You guys tell me if you want to hear it again. The story of how I got my Trailbreaker Power Cycle.
Oh, sure. It's been a while.
Sure.
Okay. So I go out to this auction in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, and they have this guy selling his entire collection because he's getting married. He tells me at the auction, found out my fiance cheated on me, so I'm selling it now because I'm contractually obligated to. Sucks. So the Trailbreaker Power Cycle goes up for auction. I'm in the front row. 50, 100, 200, 300, 400. At around $700, I lean over to see who's bidding against me. And there's a guy leaning over in the front row looking at me. And I'm looking at him. He's like, "You Rick Alvarez?" "Yeah." "Your books are the reason I collect Transformers." 800.
See what you've turned me into, you monster.
So where do we end up at? We get to the I think it's 1100. I don't even remember now. It's been so long. I think we get to like the $1,100 mark, or $1,150 or $1,200. And I'm like, I lean over again, and he's leaning over looking at me. And he says, "I already have one. I just want this for the sticker sheets." So he takes it home with him. I do the Rick thing, and I recognize game. I should be friends with this guy because he's going to come across stuff. And this is a nice guy. Name's Andy. Super, super awesome guy. 7 years go by. I've never been able to find another Trailbreaker Power Cycle. Guy sends me a message out of the blue. It's been years since I talked to him. "Rick, I'm getting out of the game. I'm going to sell you my Trailbreaker Power Cycle for what I paid for it." Cool. I was in a bad spot when that happened because I had just purchased something else. I forget what it was. Something big, stupid, like a house or something. I don't know. So I scrounge up the money. I drive out to the middle of nowhere. He drives out. He lives in Pennsylvania. I'm in Massachusetts. We drive out. We meet at midnight in a supermarket parking lot. He's like, "Here it is. Boom. I get the very same Trailbreaker Power Cycle that I missed out on 7 years before. The very same one for the very same price that the guy paid for it. And then years later, who do I meet? I meet the guy who was the kid pictured on the Trailbreaker Power Cycle.
Oh,
He
wow.
comes over to my house. His wife's looking for a box for him. I message her. I'm like, hey, good luck. You're SOL, but maybe I can do something. My friend Dave hooks me up. He's like, you know what? I've got 2 boxes. I'm going to keep the Canadian box because you don't have it, and I want something you don't have. I'm going to send you my extra American box. Cool. I invite the guy over, and if you're interested, it's a really cool interview I do with him. It's like an hour long, where we sit down, we talk about the whole process. He gave me his receipt of payment, his original receipt of payment of that day as a gift. And then he signed my box for me. So really, really cool guy. Trailbreaker Power Cycle. Never thought I'd get one. I got the very same one that I lost out on.
You know what's funny is it was only the 2 of you driving up the price against each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those, like, if either of y'all had chickened out earlier, like, it's market value gets really weird and stuff like that. Like, if you put that on eBay, would it just go for like $300?
No, it would go for more now.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, I took the instructions and the unused sticker sheet. I've never seen a set with the instructions or the unused sticker sheet. And I had them professionally framed, and that was like a $450 job to have them framed. So, plus,
you know,
mine's,
yours what now?
Mine's autographed.
Oh, yeah.
And mine's the only one that's never been assembled that we know of.
You know, what's funny with stuff like that, like especially like framing the instructions, like that was just somebody's day job. You said, yeah, I got to make another dumb toy, and they write that up. And if you told them, you know what, in like 40 years, some old dude is going to pay over $1,000 for this, and then going to pay $500 to frame this, and he'd be like, dude, I don't make $500 in a month. You know.
I was thinking the exact same thing because, you know, I know that Rick, like, you have those McDonald's Transformers too, the ones from St. Louis. Like, didn't you have you showed that off on one of the oofs?
Store display.
Yeah, the store display for that. But then, like, just those figures in general, right? Like, if you showed those to someone, like, you'd be like, oh, like, those are crappy little McDonald's toys from the 80s. Like, what are those worth? Like, $2 a piece or whatever, you know? Like, and I don't know. It's just totally different because, you know, not knowing the history on some of that stuff.
Me and Peter were talking about some toys over the weekend. I did another clean out of a few things, and I found like they're not expensive, but they're rare. Like, Rick, do you know what the Real Figure subline is?
The Real Figure?
That's the name of the subline, Real Figure. It's from Takara.
Yeah.
There are 4 releases in it. Do you want me to give you an era?
Yeah.
Beasts.
Hang on.
Like, I sent it to...
It's Beast Wars related, obviously, right?
Yes.
These aren't the minions of Unicron, are they?
No.
Fusors?
No. Like, I sent the picture to... I had some Kabaya toys as well that were in this. Some Beast Wars Kabaya stuff. And, like, Peter didn't know what that was. Like, we were pretty sure it was Kabaya. Like, you can just kind of tell, right? But we're like, what is this, though? What's it from? And we finally found it. This one took a little longer, but we did find it, and it was a real figure. Real figure. Like, they're trying to convince you. Like, authentics. You know? It's like, we promise it's not a knockoff. We're going to put it in the name because it's so bad.
So what was it?
It's real figure. The first wave is 2 figures. It's a small Optimus Primal. Transmetal Optimus Primal, and it technically transforms. It's just on a card with a blister is all it was on.
Yeah.
Like I said, you
Yep.
probably have it. Like they weren't
Yep.
hard to get at the time.
I got them. That's the only
there's-
one that I know exists is the Optimus Primal.
There's a normal one, which is what I had, and I actually sold it to our buddy Joe. And then there's another one that's clear. And then there's, according to Schmax, that's the only place we can find this documented that it exists was Schmax. And then there was a second wave later that had I can't remember what it was. It was like, I can't remember. It was somebody from Beast Wars Neo or Beast Wars Second, or one from each. There's two more, but they were different molds. No, two different molds. I can't remember, but yeah, just weird stuff like that people don't even know exists or have and forget that you had it. And it's just, it's not even rare. It's just super duper obscure and hard to find.
I know exactly what you're talking about now because I have one carded and I got a second one because I really, really wanted to open it.
Yeah.
But I haven't unpacked that part yet.
Yeah. But now those aren't really worth a lot. Like you can still get one on Mandrake, and then they're not that expensive, all said and done or whatever, right? But like talking about the McDonald's toys being expensive, how much does the Rallies Checkers Rhinox go for?
I would have no idea.
It may be worse than Bullet Bike. Okay, it's probably not worse than Bullet Bike. He's going to continue to be the toy I kick. But that thing is worth a lot of money, and it's just some late era one-off toy that was only sold at a few regional fast foods, and it's terrible. It's worse than your typical McDonald's figure, but it is super duper rare. That's the real figure. Yeah.
I just looked it up on Schmax. It's they just call them Convoy, and then the Convoy Clear version, and then there's Big Convoy and Magmatron.
Yeah, that's the other two, which I haven't seen pictures of. Schmax doesn't have pictures of them.
Yeah, there's no pictures except for the one.
You never know. I might own them, though. I'm looking at this book, this Beast Wars book by this J.E. Alvarez guy.
Do you have the Rallies Checkers Rhinox?
Yes.
Somewhere?
Yes, I have it.
It's in a tub in the garage.
I haven't gotten my Beast Wars stuff yet because I need to find the perfect case because I have like every single Beast Wars Kabaya kit. I have all like the Japanese yo-yos and the frisbees and all that crap. It's all in this book.
Buy it now at Amazon.
Buy my book.
I was gonna say, is that book rare now, Rick? Since I'm assuming that's out of print.
Yeah, there's not a factory somewhere pumping these out from 20 years ago.
Surprisingly enough.
I mean, there's a ton of stuff in here that I'm looking at that I forgot I had. Like,
it's funny, you can just look at a book and be like, "Oh, this is my collection." And there's a book.
Yeah. I've never seen that before, yet I own it.
And you took that picture.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of again, on the topic of stuff, like I'm just happy they made it because I didn't think we'd ever see something like this, and they're so cool. And these are new, couple of TFCon exclusives that they just really make me smile. And that's Watermelon Mirage and Prototype Colors RC. These are just, the funny thing is, like, I think if either of these figures had been made back in the day, I wouldn't care. I'd have the original versions and I'd be bored of them. Right. But because they weren't made and we didn't get to have them, then you do something like this, and I think it's the best thing ever. It's awesome.
Well,
Super
it's
awesome.
Like that Sandstorm that Hasbro released recently too.
Exactly. That's 100% the same. Like, that's the only reason I bought it is because it was never made. So they made it, so I bought it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought it. That's the only version of that mold I even have. And that's the only reason I have it. It's because you told me I couldn't have it. So then you made it, and I could have it, so now I have it.
Well, what about, like, Red Wing? Do you have another Red Wing in your collection, Rob?
Shut up. Hell no. I hate Red Wing's existence in any degree. I have no Red Wing. I do not want Red Wing. And I was sick to death of the classic Seeker mold when it came out, to the point, like, I don't even have nacelle. and Nacelle was kind of a cluster of quality control issues at that point, because I think Rick said beforehand that's not the first version of the Seeker's mold even. Like, they had already remade it a few times because it kept burning out. And by the time Nacelle rolled around, it's all like that thing was falling apart and misassembled. I mean, I sold mine, but I was so sick to death of Seekers that, like, hearing rumors that Red Wing was a thing Pete wanted to do made me hate it. Because, like, that's a really dumb reason for a sports team to do a toy. Until later on, when Red Wing did get made, I just thought it was even dumber. I was very happy to not buy it.
There's a Taco Tank bathtub toy.
Is it a toy, or is that like a bath salt? Like, you put it in it, fizz bombs.
It's a bath toy, and then you put the soap thing in it from up here. So you put the little cartridge in it, and then you put it in the bathtub, and it makes bubbles.
So it helps you to take a bath.
And then here's the kid, and he's all excited that he's being pictured naked with this Taco Tank thing. It's a different culture, man. Different culture.
Understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it for me. That's all kind of some examples I'd grabbed, just stuff I didn't think I'd ever buy, stuff I didn't think would ever get made, and then of course, like a lot of us are experiencing right now. And as we kind of kicked off the show with the obvious elephant in the room, the huge ass Unicron. I mean, to be honest, even when Armada Unicron was made and Cybertron Primus, like, both of those were huge to me at the time. It's still the only Primus we have, and I still have it because of that. And I still have Armada Unicron, although it's the Amazon repaint that was a little more cartoon accurate. I still think the 2010. I think it was 2010, the one from Takara, I think still had the best colors of that mold, but the Amazon one was way cheaper, and that's the one I went with.
I mean, we live in a world where within a 2-year period, we've got how many Repugnuses?
Right. There's like a whole pack. What was it? The Cyberverse pack.
Because we got the little Headmaster dude. Right. Or Titan Master,
yeah.
In his little shell thingy. Then we got an actual figure, and then he came out in Cyberverse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was like with a little bunch of little dudes, like in a whole pack with like
there was a little version of Repugnus that came like this with the little, I forget what these are called. That's why I write it down.
I assume the people that work there have some nostalgia, or they're just good at TF Wiki. And they just pick one obscure thing, and then they make a bunch of it. It's like, what obscure thing's going to win we'll make a new version of you lottery next.
You actually know what happens is, hey, we spent money to register this name. We need to get our money out of it. So I don't care how many Repugnus you need to make. You make them.
And you got to keep the name.
That's how you keep the name. That's how you make the name worth it. That's why there were so many, like, altered names back during, like, the tail end of Armada and the movie.
I mean, even Beast Wars did that.
Yeah, because the budget was so small, we weren't allowed to look for names. We just had to use the names that we had.
That's
and there were some marketers who said, Dead End, we're never going to call a Transformer Dead End Breakdown. We're never going to call it. Our toys don't break down.
Welcome to Breakneck, folks, for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's funny because, like, back in the Beast.
You mean Trail Cutter?
Motor Breath.
Silver Streak, Blue Streak. Silver Streak, Blue Streak. And I like the fact that IW made him two different guys.
It's when you look back at the Beast stuff, when they reuse names, like, we didn't care. And, like, when Unicron trilogy stuff happened, like, we didn't care. There's an Ironhide and a Prowl and whatever in Beast Wars that have nothing to do with anything. And there's an Ironhide and Prowl throughout Unicron trilogy that have nothing to do with anybody. I feel like now you use names, though, they have to be those people now. Although Animated got away with doing a completely different Prowl, which was nice. Like, in my opinion, completely different. I mean, I know, I guess he's, I don't see any similarity.
They definitely took liberties with it, but it was still a by the book cop type.
Yeah, samurai cop.
Let's see. I don't know.
Like I said, they took liberties.
Yeah.
Somehow that doesn't bother me, but like Michael Bay throwing random names at those Transformers bothers me.
Skids. Mudflap.
What bothered me more was when Michael Bay were supposed to be the same character, and I felt they performed character assassination instead. But that's a topic for another day.
What bothers me is that every Transformers movie negates the Transformers movie that comes before it. I mean, look at 6 movies. Each movie negates the film before it.
Walkie has a good comic about that, where I think it was after the 3rd movie came out, and somebody's like, wait, so when you did this, you do this, and Megatron's just like, I have a lot of backup plans. Because like all these plots are supposed to be going on at the same time. He's frozen in ice, but he's also planted all the stuff to bring Cybertron in, but he's also looking for the Matrix the whole time. It's just they all stomp on each other. If you just squint, they all happen together, but it's very complex.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Right.
And then of course, later on it's like, oh, by the way, Dinobots have been here forever and stuff for some reason. Oh, cats are mad.
I love that when someone with like the Bumblebee movie was like upset that the continuity wasn't exact, and I was like, have you been here? Like,
welcome to the show. It'll be interesting to see what the next movie in the Bumblebee does as far as continuity. Because there's been a lot of debate on that movie. Is it in Bayverse or not? And I think the obvious answer is it was intended to be able to be taken either way. I think they want.
Right.
I think halfway through writing it, they were like, "Oh, well, you know what? We should reboot it." And they're like, "No, it needs to fit in." And they're like, "Well, you know what? We should reboot it." And then, "No, it needs to fit in." And so they just kind of picked a little of both.
I think it was probably like the Thrilling 30 line that we talked about before, where they switched people like in the middle of it, and we're like, just go with it.
Yeah.
So what happens in Bumblebee 2 now? He's the Camaro, right?
We'll find out.
Bumblebee 2 is a prequel, how Bumblebee came to Earth in the 1970s and then left and then came back in the 1980s.
Right?
Right.
I think the key is what type of cross marketing that they can get with the automotive companies, and that really is probably determining like who's what character, right?
Well, they didn't have that in Bumblebee.
No, they didn't, right? But all the other ones they did.
But what if GM comes up and says, "You know what? We want to do another partnership."
Right.
Get to it.
So
that's one thing that cars companies don't do. They don't reissue cars. Like, hey, we're going to reissue the 1967 Mustang.
They kind of do it a little bit. I mean,
right.
I feel like the thing is, you wouldn't. I mean, I guess somebody out there would or whatever. But there's so many modern advances, and there's safety advances. You can't do a car exactly as it used to exist, and for a lot of good reasons.
Just release it in neon orange and blue. The safety Mustang.
Like bring back the Dodge Neon.
Sure, that was so long.
Make all the Dodges neon.
For everything?
I think so. I think we've made a good run at this topic. So I do want to mention book club this week is going to be More Than Meets the Eye 31 through 33. So they are plowing through season 2 now. So check that out. That's Sunday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on the Discord. So that's on the TF Talk Discord. And then Thursday nights we have microcasters. So we're going to, Anna should be on the show this week. So we're going to go ahead and do the figure that we were going to do last week, which was the, now I forgot what it was. The Micromaster set. Gosh.
The space set?
Master set? This guy.
Yes, that guy right there. So Zaldron, I apologize for us not doing that last week. So we'll do it this week here. So
Cut the Tape should be up Friday with Unicron.
See you Saturday, folks.
Wait, right, I was gonna say. So, are you filming it on Friday? Or
No, I'm filming it on Wednesday, the day that thing gets here.
All right.
Okay.
Does anybody ever get their FedEx stuff when it says it will be? It is almost always a day or two later.
Valid point.
Good point. It still says my Unicron's in Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, it told me that my Unicron was coming last Friday until 10 p.m. when it finally switched over to pending. And then it set pending until Sunday when they're like, oh, it's on the truck for delivery.
So
Mine was actually opposite. Like mine said it was
early?
going to be here Monday, and I got it on Sunday. So, like,
Wow.
now this never happens to me. This is the one example of that happening. But,
mine's
You
taking
should-
a weird trip around the country. It went to California, then it went to Texas, then it went to Illinois, and then it went to Texas.
So
So
that makes sense.
I don't know. Maybe
It feels like they meant to offload it and forgot.
Whoops.
but it'll get here when it gets here.
Well, you could always just anticipate it possibly being late, so you could just take it and spread it out, kind of like Marvel did with WandaVision, into like 9 parts. And the first part would just be you preparing to receive the package. Get your box cutter
On the
ready.
steps of my house.
Right. Clear some space. and,
Right. You
know.
hear car.
Nope, still not them. Oh, there's a wait, no. Oh, there's a FedEx. Oh, no, they kept going.
Then an after credit scene, you standing by the mailbox.
no, it'd be
Can't
great
go by
if you see the FedEx truck come up and it's actually something for your wife.
Right.
not
it requires
Unicron.
a signature. It's the one time I leave the house and the guy's there and he's like,
They did not ask for a
Sorry,
signature.
missed you.
back.
Like it even said on the FedEx tracking signature required, and the dude just left it and walked off. Like he rang the doorbell, but he just immediately walked off.
And then he ran away.
Yeah, it's like fuck this thing. I ain't carrying it back to the truck.
Right.
It's yours now.
I feel like it's the one time that they actually will drop it off because it's a 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot box. They want to get that the heck out of their truck.
Yeah. Like honestly, I was surprised. Like I'm glad we were home for the delivery. I mean, I work from home. I'm always home, but I was as expensive as that thing is. I really wanted to sign for it. Like I would. So it's kind of annoying that they didn't actually sign it. I don't know what their protocols are on that, but I know I'm not the only one. I've heard other people say, yeah, they didn't ask me to sign anything. They just dropped it and left. Alas. Maybe if it's a residential, they don't feel they need to. I don't know. Versus like an apartment complex, which is, it's a lot easier to steal from an apartment complex or, a business place where you make sure you left it with somebody at the front desk. I don't know. I'm guessing here.
Can you imagine the video? People do those videos of someone tries to steal the Amazon package off their doorstep.
Yes.
Can you imagine the video if someone tries to steal a Unicron from someone?
Oh man,
I mean, that
Phantom
would
would
be
hunt them
bad.
down.
Yeah, in the case of in this murder case, we have this Ring doorbell of this man named Robert running out with just a T-shirt, nothing else.
Y'all don't know what's down here.
The T-shirt, and he's just chasing the FedEx guy. And
But your jury and your honor tried to steal my Unicron. they're not going to convict. I'm good.
Yep, definitely. So, well, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Catherine, Phil, Zaldron.
Who's Peacemo? Is that Phil?
That's Phil. Yeah.
Is that our Phil or is that a different Phil?
Yeah, that's our Phil.
Okay.
Yep. So, but yeah, thank you guys. And thank you for joining tonight. And we will see you next week.